You know, Hitler wanted to be an artist. At 18, he took his inheritance, 700 kronen, and moved to Vienna to live and study. He applied to the Academy of Fine Arts and later to the School of Architecture. Ever seen one of his paintings? Neither have I. Resistance beat him. Call it overstatement, but I'll say it anyway. It was easier for Hitler to start World War II than it was for him to face a blank square of canvas. I've been trying to film this video for 3 days. You wanna know what I've been doing instead? I bought a cat backpack. I want to start off by saying that procrastination is not a self-regulation issue, like laziness or something like that. It's an emotional regulation issue. Make no mistake, there is nothing else at the root of procrastination other than emotions, specifically fear and specifically shame attached to that. And by the way, I'm not talking about the type of procrastination where it's like, oh, my room's dirty and I really need to clean my room, I gotta get going. No, I'm talking about the type of procrastination where it's something you want to do. This is a big thing that you actually ultimately want to do, but it feels big. It's not like a little boring thing like cleaning your room, but it's a big thing that you want to do. And why is it that there's this thing that I enjoy so much that I cannot just seem to get myself to sit down and do it? So here's a little story. You one day decided you were going to do this thing. You were going to make these paintings, write these books. You did it for a while, then you got some negative criticism. You got some feedback. So then you said, okay, I'm going to adjust to this feedback. I'm going to make sure that I do this and I do this and I do this. And over time, this rejection over and over and over again, this criticism over and over again, whether it's from a parent or people who were consuming your work, really started to grate on you and build up. So what you needed to do was develop some sort of coping mechanism or some sort of self-protection technique for this. Sound familiar? They are metaphorically shooting me with this bow and arrow, this rejection, this criticism. What I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze my work first before they get the chance to reject me. I'm going to shoot myself with the bow and arrow. I'm going to like nitpick every little thing that I do and criticize myself and reject myself preemptively, preemptive self-rejection, so that they can't reject me. That's a coping mechanism. Now, over time, that creates some problems of its own. So you had to create a second coping mechanism because obviously that wasn't the most healthy coping mechanism we could have had to be shooting ourselves with these bow and arrows. So we needed a second coping mechanism. We need some sort of shield. Okay, I'm just going to put up this shield so that I can't attack myself or so they can't attack me. Now, this is all going on relatively subconsciously. It's not super conscious that all this is happening. But we put up this shield, and the shield we put up is procrastination. And it's a way of shielding ourselves from rejection, from shame, this fear of failure, this perfectionism, which perfectionism at its root is just a more watered down rejection. So the first thing that we need to do is acknowledge that this is an emotional state that we're in. So we need to say, okay, I'm gonna put my shield down, I'm gonna put my arrow down, let's put all the weapons down. And what emotion am I really afraid of confronting? What is it that's really scaring me about this? And so what I like to do is create kind of the decision matrix. So I start by writing down, what is the worst case scenario if I do it? Like if I'm nervous to film a YouTube video for whatever reason, okay, what's the worst case scenario? The most probable worst case scenario. Okay, I guess technically the house could burn down, but we're just talking about probable worst case scenarios. So it's like, well, maybe it doesn't perform very well and maybe someone leaves a rude comment or whatever. It's like, you know, that's actually not that big of a deal. I don't really care about that stuff. So then let's go down the route. What's the worst case scenario if I don't do it? Okay, well, if I don't film the video today, then I'll just have to reface the whole resistance tomorrow. And then it just starts creating this chain of me not doing it. And the more and more days that I don't do it, the more it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm going to have to face it sometime. And the easiest time to face it's probably today. So then we go down to what's the best case scenario if I don't do it? Well, it puts it off another day. But that nudge is not going to go away. It's like best case scenario. It's like I'll just tinker around on my laptop for a while, buy a cat backpack. I don't know. I mean, it's like nothing really moving the needle or really awe-inspiring. And then what's the best case scenario if I do it? And it's like, well, then that nudge that keeps telling me to do this thing, that's going to be satisfied for the day. I've faced the resistance for the day. That's kind of like, I feel so like jubilant after doing it. The best things in life to do are the things that feel difficult to start, but they feel amazing at the end. The worst things to do are the opposite. The worst things are like, you know, going on social media. You're like, okay, yeah, this is fun. And then after a while, you're like, ooh, this is making me just feel like crap. But the best things are the things where it's like, it's hard to get into like making a YouTube video because it just feels hard to be like creative and say all this stuff. And then at the end, it's like, yes, I did it. And that's the type of stuff that you want to spend your time doing. And the last step, which is definitely the most helpful to me, is to break down the silent constraints and then also remove them. So I'll explain what I mean by silent constraints. A lot of times what happens is when you get criticism over time, you start developing like, okay, well, next time I'm not going to speak too loud. For me, it's like, okay, I'm not going to speak with gravel in my voice. Okay, I'm not going to speak too high pitched. Okay, I won't speak too fast. People don't like that. And then all of a sudden you get all these constraints and it starts to feel like it's just sucking out the creativity. It's just constricting everything when all of a sudden you have these constraints. So what I decided was I need to write down what are all these constraints that are causing so much pressure. So I wrote down like, okay, I got to talk this way. I got to talk this way. I need to take a shower. I need to blow dry my hair. I need to do my makeup. I need to wear a color that's contrasting with the background. I need to, just on and on and on and on and on and on, all of these constraints. And when you get all of these constraints out in the open, then all of a sudden you can kind of organize them. And when it's out in the open, then your brain can process them a lot better. And you can look at which ones of these are actually important and which of these do not matter at all. So I made a column of all these constraints. And then I made a column of what's like the lazy way I could do it. Like, yeah, sure, on a perfect day, this is what I would do, but I'm really having a hard time getting started today. I'm really procrastinating a lot today. So what's the best that I could do today? So just cross off the ones that don't matter. Okay, you know what? I'm not showering today. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And when you get it down to kind of what's more of like the minimum viable product, it's not the perfect product, but at least it'll be done, because the thing that is in your head that's perfect is not as good as the actual crappy product in real life. What I feel like creating is just making a bunch of crappy products over and over and over again that you're not happy without loss of enthusiasm. So chunk it down into these manageable bites, cross off the ones that don't matter, and then just get started on the next one. And if that feels too overwhelming, break that down even further. Like for me, one of the action items is to like organize the living room so that I can film, and that seemed too overwhelming. So it's like clear off the couch, clear off the coffee table, clear off the, the kitchen counter, just down the list. If you're feeling overwhelmed, the tinier bite size, the better. If you liked kind of this like self-help meets emotions exercises type vibe, I have this playlist right here, the Change Your Life Challenge, where I have a lot of exercises getting down into like your calling and emotions and activities that really help me with free templates. So check out this playlist.